again, everybody. Welcome to the XP Billionaires podcast. I hope you guys have had a great Valentine's Day weekend. And if you just happen to be living in Ontario, Canada, where we all are, I also hope you had a great long weekend too, because this past Monday would have been Family Day. And you know what? Who doesn't love a good long weekend, assuming they exist thanks to, our current present circumstances in where we live. My name is Ray Fegram. I am joined by Sky Knight and the Mel Zerker. We are here for you for part 2 of our Valentine's Day special. I know Valentine's Day just passed, but why not celebrate it for a little bit longer? Although this week celebrating may be a bit of a incorrect term, but we'll get to that in just a second. Let's say hello to everybody first. Sky, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm pretty good. Still staying housebound, still playing lots of games. Yeah, it's just, there's a pandemic on. Why leave house?
I mean, that should be the logical response, but yeah. All right, Mel, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I ate some pizza, which I think we can all agree is the best thing about a day in general. I'm ready. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to fight.
Well, now I want pizza.
Oh, you should want pizza. You should want pizza. This is a pepperoni and ham pizza. Nice and simple. No sauce. I know. It's a weird idea, but try it. It's really good.
It's okay. Like we typically go light sauce with our pizza. We avoid ham because Sky's not the biggest fan, but I'll usually replace it with bacon crumble.
You're not a fan of ham? It only sort of rhymes.
Yeah, it's a texture thing. It just tastes rubbery and like an eraser to me. A bad tasting eraser.
As opposed to a good tasting eraser?
I was just going to say, right?
Like, no, there's some that smell good, but
the good tasting eraser is squid, and I will die on that hill.
That's fair. That's admittedly something we should try on a pizza someday, but
sounds lovely.
Yeah, it kind of does, doesn't it? Yeah. I have to do a make a pizza. Maybe we'll get some of from the squid from the place that we go order from, and I'll just chop it up and put it on a pizza at some point.
Yummy.
Yeah. Oh man, payday can't come soon enough. Ah. All right. Well, we are going to get into this week's topic, and like I said, it's part 2 of our Valentine's Day special. We're going to do something a little different this week. We are bringing back a time-honored XP Billionaires tradition. The Arena. As you may or may not have heard in past episodes, the Arena is where we pit RPG characters against one another in a no-holds-barred discussion until we tell everybody else that we are right, and they're forced to submit into who would win in a fight. This week, we're going to do something a little different. Because it's Valentine's Day, we're going to do a 2-on-2 arena pitting RPG couples against one another. For those of you who haven't been to had an arena episode before, here's how it works. We've got a list of bouts that we're gonna name off, and we're gonna decide the pairings. And at that point, we will discuss our reasoning as to why one side or the other should win in a fight. We'll each get a turn, and we'll eventually vote, hopefully swaying the others into a vote. Majority wins, of course. So with 3 of us, that should always be the case. So without further ado, let's have at it.
Well, should we not discuss the selection criteria first?
Oh yeah, okay.
Okay, well, I'll do this bit.
That's why you're here, to keep us on track.
Apparently. So basically, we chose these couples based on 2 criteria. They either have to be canon couples. So if there's romance options, it's a no-go. And the other selection criteria is that both people in the couple had to be playable. in their game. And yeah, that was it. So let's get into it.
All righty. Okay. So, all right. So the first pairing that we have Yuri and Alice from Shadow Hearts versus Haseo and Natalie from Hack GU. All right, this is going to be quite a bit of a bout. So before we begin, a little bit of background for each of them. Sky, you know Yuri and Alice really well. Why don't you start with them?
Sure, why not? So Yuri's the main character of Shadow Hearts. He's called a Harmonixer. He transforms into different demon forms. When you first meet him, he's very rude and rough around the edges. And he saves Alice's life because she was kidnapped, and this voice told him to go rescue Alice off this train. And the voice is explained later through plot. I won't spoil it, but the Alice is a very powerful magician. She can use light magic. She's and has a lot of innate power, and she serves as the healer / mage to Yuri's sort of jack of all trades fighter in Shadow Hearts 1. Is there anything else I should add?
No, I think that covers it. So getting into Haseo and Natalie, this is actually when you explained Yuri and Alice, these two kind of have a very similar set of personalities. Haseo was very much a rough around the edges, gruff player in the world. Natalie was this bright, cheerful harvest cleric. So his inevitable healing class to Haseo's multi-weapon class, which gives him access to dual swords, a scythe, a broadsword, and eventually weapons that technically deviate from the system, dual guns, and a chainsword, which ended up being really amazing. I wish there was more of the chainsword, but that was part of the bonus content from last Recode. But anyway, the other factor of these two is that they are part of the 8 phases of Morgana, which means they can transform into an avatar, which is a giant monstrous being which was meant to hunt viruses and bugs within the world that they're from. So that being said, let's get into some fight talk. So who wants to start?
I'm the one who suggested pairing these couples against each other because I did notice that they were so similar. But I will edge on the side of Yuri and Alice, not only because I hate Natalie with the passion of 1,000 suns, but the fact of the matter is that Yuri and Alice are both way tougher than their counterparts. Haseo is a jack of some trades. Yuri is a jack of all trades. Like all sorts of different demons, elemental magic, beefy, beefy demons. He gets 5 attacks in a turn. The guy is ridiculously hard to kill. And Alice is a lot more stable of a personality than Natalie is. She's a lot braver. She generally has her shit together. And she's an exceptional magician. Well, Natalie still, despite having, a phase, is still a fairly standard example of a harvest cleric. Alice, as a magical healer, is basically a cut above every other magic user, with the exception of maybe Kodelka in the Shadow Hearts universe, and that's it. So I'm gonna say Yuri and Alice.
I'm gonna pop in, and though I have only played with Haseo and Natalie, and I agree.
Yeah.
And for that reason alone, they can't win. Like, I'm usually for a bucket of happy smiles, but like, oh my god, just insufferable. If only because the rest of the audience turns on her.
Yeah, I mean, I want to give it. If Haseo was alone, I think he might be able to pull it off. But I feel like, yeah, Adelie would have just gotten into the way somehow. And even when it comes to say like having Haseo pull out the avatar and have just Scathe try to wreck everything, Yuri's faced gods before, and I. I don't want to give it to Yuri and Alice because this is my bias talking because I love Haseo and I will give points to any scythe wielder in any video game ever. But I really want to, but I mean, one way or the other, I'm going to lose. But because you guys have already got the vote, but
yeah, it's and I feel bad because I too like I like Haseo a lot, but
I like Haseo's player. Does that count?
Should you though? I don't know. Have you really looked into like the background lore of dot hack characters?
I have not. I just know that I like him a lot more on the desktop.
Okay, because we're gonna give you some fun facts that might be a little bit on the spoiler side, so maybe cut if you don't want to hear about dot hack stuff. But it is fairly old. Um, Haseo actually played the first version of the world and was actually one of the characters in the anime dot hack sign. He was an 8-year-old kid who was the twin blade Sora in that original anime series, and he was a little shit stain.
yeah,
He
just
was
totally opposite person.
like I don't know how much of the dot hack universe you've actually seen played if you played the old games, if you watched the hack sign, but like if you ever decide to go and like go down that rabbit hole like I did, like you'll find out a whole bunch of like a lot of the characters that were in GU had some sort of involvement in the first version of the world, which is really, really interesting. And I thought it was really cool. Like the character that played Coon was one of the coma victims in the first game. And Yada was a major player in the first set of games, although that gets revealed in the third GU game. But yeah,
Well,
like there's so much connection. Oh yeah, Endurance, yes, of course. Yeah, because that one wasn't obvious.
Yeah.
But yeah, like there's just so much connection in there, and it's so much fun. And when you realize that Haseo was that little turd after watching the series, oh my god, you just like, how is this? Well, I guess it's kind of possible, but how did he redeem himself? Like,
yeah, if you want to see an example of good character development there, and which is one of the reasons why he was such a good person to put against Yuri, because Yuri also went through a great deal of character development in terms of turning away from this, jackass that he was at the very beginning of Shadow Hearts 1, I mean, eventually you realize it's more of a, a defense mechanism, a result of having a rough life, more than actually inherently being a jackass.
yeah, no, exactly.
But yeah, I mean, Adelie, there's only one thing you can say here, is that Adelie's the weak link, like, and also, push comes to shove, Alice will whop you over the head with her giant Bible.
It's kind of true. Yeah.
Could you see Adelie doing something similar? Nuh-uh.
No, she advocates for peace too much. It's ugh.
Yeah, she's like the epitome of the most obnoxious pacifist.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, I guess in the end, it really becomes unanimous, as much as I don't want to say it. But if Haseo were alone, I'd probably argue otherwise. So, winner goes to Yuri and Alice for this match. Yay!
Woo!
All right. Well, that's the first. That's the first blood to be dropped. Let's add some more to the arena. We are going to do a Final Fantasy showdown with two couples going at one another. With this pairing, we have Zidane and Dagger from Final Fantasy IX versus Titus and Yuna from Final Fantasy X. The 9 versus 10 fight, and we can't say 10 wins because it's greater than 9. That's not possible. We're not allowed to do that. Oh, I expected a laugh. Now I'm sad.
Here I am. Here I come.
I'm going to cut that so it works.
And Mel just won the internet.
You can just put that as like an extra, like when people just like want to download like the random extras. If you like download one of our laughs to use as your ringtone.
Wait, no. I have a better idea. We have to imitate that horrible laugh from Final Fantasy X.
No, you do not.
That's my best guess. That's my best version.
No. Anyway, all right. So, for those of you who have been living under a rock and need some background information from these games, Zidane and Dagger from Final Fantasy IX. Zidane was a theater member who decided to kidnap the princess of the country that's name I'm forgetting at this point.
Alexandria, I believe.
Yes, you're right. Zidane basically plays as a thief, dagger wielder. He also likes to use these two wind-bladed pole arms, which are kind of cool.
Dagger wielder?
Yeah. He wishes. As for Dagger, she is the princess and essentially is a white mage with summoning capacity. So she does have the ability to summon on her in her roster, but for the most part, basic magic, mostly white magic, and yeah, that's kind of the breakdown there. Meanwhile, Titus and Yuna. Titus is the blitzball star that ends up in a whole new world, and it was not a fantastic point of view from the look of it. So he is your typical sword wielder, lots of sword skills, and you've got Yuna, who's similar to Dagger in that she has healing and summoning ability. So honestly, pretty tight match here. They're very similar. I mean, from a close range perspective with Zidane and Titus, I think Zidane would get it. I think he's a little bit faster and he can get a better hit in because his blade is shorter, I find. So I think that would be an advantage. And I think for Dagger and Yuna, it would come down to their summons. So who they'd be able to summon between one another.
I didn't finish either game, but if everything I've heard checks out, I mean, Yuna, I think, is supposed to be like the uber summoner, like
Yeah.
and Dagger didn't really distinguish herself to me personally, but I was very lukewarm on both games. So I did get a lot further into Final Fantasy IX, though.
I'm torn because I feel like Zidane would win out of him and Titus, but I feel like Yuna would win out of her and Dagger. So it's like overall, who's got the win here?
Yeah. See, this one I think is the tricky one. Now, Zidane's got his transformation ability, which like just amps himself up. It's essentially like a Super Saiyan upgrade, if you will. I think that stands to reason that that would give a certain edge over even the summons, to be honest, because it would be a fairly big power up. Especially since he's fast, having his speed amped up would allow him to dodge the summons a lot better too.
Yeah, and I think he would more readily just like slash Yuna down to win. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I mean
when like Zidane seems a bit smarter in combat.
And just smarter generally, I think.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go with Zidane and Dagger. I'm gonna go with that. Run battle, maybe not, but
yeah. Also, Dagger's weapons were like resemblance of like lacrosse sticks or something. So she'd just be like whipping pellets at the other summoners to knock off a unit to knock off her concentration. So
yeah, I think I'm gonna side with Zidane and Dagger as well.
All right, so I think we've got another unanimous win here. So Zidane and Dagger have taken this fight, and with I don't know, I think we had to think about that one a lot more than the others. So
shockingly, I thought that one would be really easy, but
yeah, just when once you really kind of get into their descriptions and what kind of skills they have, it's just like, where really is the ace in the hole going to be? And yeah, I think Zidane's trance is what would do it. So, time for our third bout, and this one is definitely going to knock us out a little bit in one way or another. Words, we have got Rex and Pyra from Xenoblade Chronicles 2 versus Adele and Roslyn from Disgaea 2. So it's the Battle of the Twos with two people. It's a conspiracy, I tells you.
Ha ha. Ha 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 ha.
Alrighty, so Sky, you are familiar with both of these, so let's hear some background.
All right, so Rex is the protagonist of Xenoblade Chronicles 2. He's a sword wielder, a salvager. He's kind of a low guy, but he's still like pretty tough and very sort of, street smartsy kind of guy. He's been on his own a long time. And Pyra is his blade. She's basically a type of magical being. And she gets various power-ups throughout the game, but there's also she's also like the most powerful example theoretically of her kind. And once she's fully powered up, but in her basic Pyra form, she is she does fire magic, which is not impacted by water though, which is one of the great mysteries until a certain point in the game. Very sweet, likes to cook. Not too much else to add there. I'm trying to avoid spoilers because both of these couples have a lot of spoilers around combat and their physical and magical abilities, so bear with me here. Adele and Roslyn. Adele is a very powerful fist fighter, very quick on his feet. What exactly he is, I can't say, but he is he's got more than human ability. Let's put it that way. This guy is a game series too, where the level cap is absurd. So the whole idea is that everyone can get overpowered very easily. Roslyn is introduced as the daughter of Overlord Xenon. She's a gunner for the most part, with a side dose of magic, I think. She has a lot of unknown power, let's put it that way. Initially unknown power. She's got a very sort of tsundere personality at first, but she's also this was one of those couples that doesn't take all game to kick in. Like she and Adele kind of just mesh together pretty well almost immediately. Which is and she gets very attached very quickly to him. So
no, I think that covers it. I think we've got what we need there, mostly like skills, things like that. Yeah, I think this one isn't for me. I think it's a no-brainer. I want to give it to Adeline Roslyn, and I will explain why. Basically, Adele is an experienced martial artist, and he was like right from the very beginning. Therefore, he has a bit of a combat and tactical advantage over Rex, who, you know, he may or may not have been good in a fight, but it wasn't until he got his blade that he was doing any fighting within the game. So his history of combat is still fairly unknown, but it doesn't seem like he was doing something specifically to get into fights on a regular basis. Now, that being said, at the same time, even after he has his blade, the way blades work is that there's still only one weapon between the two of them. So, like I remember as I'm playing through Xenoblade 2, if you wanted to use like a really, really special move with Pyra, Rex has to throw the sword to her. So there's still one weapon between Adele's fists and Roslyn's guns, let alone Roslyn tossing all this other magic at them. So I feel that creates a bit of a disadvantage, and from a combat perspective at the same time.
That's a fair assessment. I think generally teamwork wise, they're pretty much about equal, but I think sheer speed is probably on Adele and Rosalind's side. You know, they both have very quick sort of weapon styles. And Rosalind and Pyra are both enormously powerful characters.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes them a long time throughout both their stories to get sort of fully powered up. But Rosalind, I think, is just a little bit more so. You know, like, she's supposed to be, like, really, really ridiculously powerful. Now, she's a bit of a loose cannon once she, when she accesses her other self, quote unquote. And her gunplay style is a nice, is different enough from Adele's style. Like we've got both the close range and the long range abilities working with those two in a way that you don't necessarily with Rex and Pyra. Also, Pyra's other form requires you have to be outdoors for her to use her super powerful ability. So there's that.
I am not familiar with either of these characters, but based on everything I've heard, but also my immediate just like read through of the characters, like you gotta go demon powers, don't you?
But it certainly sounds like we have a unanimous answer at this point, one way or the other. So I guess we're going to call it. I'm going to say that this one goes to Adele and Roslyn. Score that for the comedically evil. All right. At this point, I think we are going to wrap it up. We've got a couple of really good fights here. I think we need to wash out some of the blood. And the discussions have been really interesting. And I'm glad that while they all ended up being fairly one-sided, I'm glad there was at least some good discussion over why that was. So So let me think. Do you agree with our choices for these fights? Do you disagree? Do you hate our guts for not picking your favorite character? Let us know. You can do that through our email. You can send that to xpbillionaires@gmail.com, or you can check us out on our social media to do that. You can find me on Twitter at BillionairesXP, or you can check out my Instagram at Ray Thegram for some Gunpla stuff. Got some new stuff being worked on. You're going to like what you see there, I swear. All right, Sky, where can everyone find you?
I'm at SkyKnightXP on Twitter and SkyKnight.xp on Instagram.
And Mel, where can everyone find you?
You can find me at Feminist Gamer on Instagram or Feminist Gamer 3 on Twitter, and you can check out my D&D live stream on Twitch every Wednesday.
Awesome. And we will do so. Also, don't forget xpbillionaires.ca is your one-stop shop for all the stuff that we do here at the XP Billionaires. Written features, quickfire reviews, the weekly RPG writing roundup, I think is what you called it. So check all of that out. And don't forget there are links there in order to support us if you feel generous enough to do so. All right, so that is going to be it for us this week. And just remember, when love is a battlefield, you got to keep gaming for that ultimate prize. All right, we'll see you next week, everybody.
Stay safe.
Bye-bye.